Welcome to special episode 2 of the Liberty Mastermind podcast. I'm Ox, along with Pat Leo and Captain Jack. In this special edition, we'll be following up with Jake Robinson about his time assisting in Texas with Hurricane Harvey rescue and cleanup efforts. But first, a quick thank you for the 5-star rating and review from I Am Sasha Fierce on iTunes, who says, quote, "I don't always agree, but the content is informative and funny. More voices and jokes." Well, thanks for the rating and review, and welcome, Jake, back to the podcast. How's it going?
It's awesome, man. I'm doing good. I'm a little tired, but I didn't expect to be back on your podcast so soon. But I also didn't expect that I was going to actually go down to Texas.
Yeah, you were down there for like 4 days or so, kind of helping out. Give us an overview.
Well, you know, as I said, I wasn't planning on going. I'm on the board of CAC. Are you guys familiar with Citizens Assisting Citizens?
Yes, we are. But yeah, tell the audience about that.
Well, when Hurricane Sandy hit in 2012, Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast saw what most other people saw, was that there was a big defect in when people needed relief and when they got it. You know, it took a long time for FEMA and for Red Cross and those other guys to get in there. And it was obvious that when you see a lady dumpster diving 2 days into the event, you got to get people in there quick with food and water. So he started, he basically put it out there to the podcast audience. Hey, what do you think about this idea? We need to have a rapid response team. Mm-hmm. That we've got enough people in our audience that are, you know, preppers and survivors and self-reliant and like to help people and have skills and have common sense. Surely we have enough people to be able to do a nationwide organization. And then he put the word out for volunteers, and we got all kind of volunteers that have emergency response experience, you know, people who worked on rescue squads and all that kind of stuff, ex-military, and they put together a team that started organizing and brainstorming on how to do it. And then once they got a little bit more organized, it was obvious we needed to go for a 501(c) nonprofit status so that we could raise funds.
Okay.
And they did that, and they formed a board of directors. Eventually, somewhere along the line, they asked me to come onto the board of directors, and I've been on it for over a year now. And Stephen Harris recently became the chairman of the board. We kind of got bogged down in bureaucracy trying to get this thing off the ground. He came in and blasted through the red tape, and we got things going. And Tom Patterson is our executive director. He was an integral part of getting people lined up to become regional directors. We divided the U.S. in, I think, 7 or 9 different regions, kind of after the FEMA regions, and recruited, regional directors. Those people would stay in their region, and when something in their region would happen, we needed to deploy assets there. They would control the deployment. They would organize the volunteers and get them going in the right direction, making sure they had supplies, making sure they had funds, that sort of thing. So what was interesting about this deployment, and we've only had a couple of deployments since we've organized, is that this was such a huge impact, such a broad area geographically. Stephen just basically threw the rules out the window. Usually, if you're going to be a volunteer with CAC, you're going to have to get a background check, make sure you're not a felon, other stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you have to be trained. You have to actually take some online training modules to get up to speed on protocol. You know, you don't want to go in there with somebody that don't know what they're doing, and somebody's, you know, laying out on the ground with a broken neck. You pick them up and kill them because you didn't know. So it's some basic, you know, first aid stuff and basic, here's how we operate stuff. And so this time, though, he decided that, okay, we're pulling out all the stops. We weren't getting enough people responding to the deployment requests. So he basically opened it up to everybody and said, hey, if you're a warm body and you want to come help, we will pay your fuel cost to come down here. We will find a safe haven house for you to lay your head at night, take a shower, and get back up and go to work. But if you stay at a hotel, that's up to you. Your food is on you. You got to bring your own gas, extra gas, so that you don't get trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And so he put that out there. About the same time, a friend of mine, a lady friend, had posted on Facebook just kind of an open message. Hey guys, I've decided I'm going to go to Texas. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just know I need to go down there and help. Does anybody want to go with me? I called her up and I said, Connie, if you're going to go, then we need to coordinate with CAC because, they've got funds for fuel and they have funds for us to purchase supplies that we can deliver to people who need it. And that's really our mission, is to deliver those food and water to people shortly after the event's over until they get to a shelter. And most times shelters have supplies. But there are some times where people get shipped to a new shelter that just opens and there's not supplies there yet. Or we had envisioned that, we'd go set up in a church parking lot and put up a canopy tent and a table and a banner saying, supplies or relief here or whatever, and wearing our CAC shirts. And maybe people would come to us. We'd have a charging station and charge people's phones. But man, I don't know if you've heard that quote from Mike Tyson when he talks about, you always have a plan for the person you're going to fight.
Until you get punched in the face.
Until you get punched in the nose. And brother, we got punched in the nose. It's totally wasn't what we expected it to be when you get down there. First of all, can you even get down there? When you're driving down, you start hearing, I-10 is shut down. It's underwater. Well, how do you get into Beaumont and Port Arthur and Orange if you can't cross that river there, the Sabine River, the Sabine Lake? And then we headed down there. I called another buddy of mine and said, hey, man, I'm going to Texas. You want to go? And he said, what are you going to do? I said, well, we're going to go do good stuff. He said, okay, hold on. I might want to bring a boat. He called me back and decided he was going to bring 2 boats. His nephew decided to come. So he had a little jet boat and he had a little John boat that didn't have a motor. And the idea was we would pull the John boat behind the jet boat so we could take more people to shore. He wanted to do boat rescue. I was good with that. That wasn't my mission. But if he wanted to come and do it, he came down there with us, and that's what we attempted to do. We were driving down from Tennessee, and it was me and Connie and Danny and Jesse, and we had 3 vehicles. So we got down there getting close. I think we were in south in Mississippi near Hattiesburg, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And Connie's like, I can't drive anymore. And I said, okay, well, then maybe we'll just go ahead and get a hotel. They hadn't found a safe haven place for us at that point yet. And so we were going to get in a hotel and get up and go the next morning. My buddy Danny said, look, you go ahead and get a hotel. I'm going to keep driving, man. I cannot go to sleep thinking about, he said, what's your granddaughter's name? I said, London June. I said, yeah, do you want to, when London June is trapped in a house with water on a roof of a house in the elements, do you want a rescuer taking the night off and sleeping? I said, yeah, you're right, dude. I can't do that. We put Connie in a hotel, and we went on down and drove the night through and arrived at 5:30 in the morning. And by that time, we had found some locals who would take us into Orange, Texas, which was underwater, and get us in there. They had roadblocks saying you can't go here, but these guys knew how to get around the water to get us close enough to where we were needed. And
okay.
we pulled into Orange, Texas, and he said, all right, go down that street right there and you're going to see where you need to be. And we went down that street, and then the road is covered with water, and we turned into the road, and we just kept driving in the water until we figured out, okay, let's turn around here and launch our boat. And that's basically what everybody did. You don't have a boat ramp, so you don't have a real steep ramp that goes into the water where you can easily deploy your boat. You have shallow water that gradually gets deeper, and that's just the nature of it. So you basically wind up, you have to take a little bit of a chance of, you better have a bigger, tall truck. So while you're backing into the water, you don't know, there's no ramp, you're on the road, and eventually you might get deep enough where you can stop, push your boat off the trailer, and then pull forward. We were the first boat in the water, and which was good, but the bad news is we had engine trouble. Our starter, we got started up, and we took off, and got our John boat going, and we thought we were in good shape. And then the motor stopped, and we couldn't get it started. The starter was kicking in, but the spring wasn't engaging the gear. So we were dead in the water. We were like, oh crap, what do we do? So we had tools. What do you do, man? You
Welcome
improvise.
to the world of rescue.
Yeah, you improvise. And so we got the toolbox out. We took the starter off. I started Googling phone numbers. And of course, right there, nothing is open. You're going to have to go drive 30 minutes somewhere to get to the next town to get something that's even open. I probably called 30 or 40 different businesses. Most of them didn't answer. Finally got a guy that said, yeah, I think I can repair that. Danny and his nephew drove in, and I stayed there with the boats and watched everybody deploy. I watched for about 2 hours. I watched boat after boat after boat. I bet there was 100 boats that put in right there where we are, and that's not the only.
Great.
And that wasn't the only deployment point. They came back with the guy repaired the thing in 4 minutes. They said it only took him 4 minutes to repair it. We put it back on, started right up. We took off about 200 yards down the river of the road, and the boat died, and we tried to restart. Engine died, and we tried to restart it, and it wouldn't restart. Same thing happened again. Right, I mean, it worked one time, and the spring wouldn't deploy so we decided we're done. We got to go change gears. We were probably about a half a mile from where we deployed, but the water was never over waist deep in that area. We watched a big old jet, one of those big old airboats from Florida for the Everglades.
Yeah.
There was a guy in a pickup truck, had got them to hook up to his truck, and they were trying to tow him somewhere. I don't know where they were trying to go at first. We watched that for a minute, and then once they unhooked, when our boat, that's when our boat motor quit the second time, and the guy walked up to us and said, "Hey, can you help us with our truck?" I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're going to try to push this truck back over to that light." Well, that light was like a half a mile away, the way we just came. And we said, "Man, you can't do that." It's like, he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." I said, "Why are you doing it, man? Why don't you just wait till the water goes down?" He said, "Well, my toolbox is on this truck, and that's my livelihood." Long story short, since our boat wouldn't start, we just tied it to the bumper of his truck, and the three of us jumped out with the two of them and started pushing their truck. We pushed that truck about half a mile through waist deep water, and of course we got some weird looks, and as the boats were coming by, they were videotaping, so I'm sure we're on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, awesome.
But anyway, we got back to land about 10 o'clock that morning, and we decided we're going to do something different. We rode just down the road, found a Kroger that was closed. Well, actually it was open, but it had no power. And they had a line of people running out the door. I said, "Good grief, that must be a lot of people there." And what they were doing was they were limiting how many people would go in and shop because they didn't have power, didn't have cash registers. They had 3 checkers checking out people manually with calculators, and they could only take cash. And this was in probably a low income area based on what I could judge. A lot of people there. We had a lot of water, bottled water on board. So I went to the Kroger manager and said, "Look, we've got a lot of bottled water. Do you know of a shelter around here that needs it?" And he said, "No." I said, "Do you mind if we hand it out to the people in line?" He says, "Go for it." So they gave us a big old stack of Kroger bags. We broke the cases up and put 6 bottles per bag, and we started putting them on the sidewalk. And then we went up to the line of people, and there was probably at any given time about 60 to 100 people in line. And we just said, "Hey guys, when you get done, come over here and get you a bag of bottled water." And
oh, wow.
there was a lot of people, even though they might have had money to buy bottled water, because they could get water from us, maybe they bought diapers instead.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a lot of people picked up water. They were very appreciative. Had a lot of people come up to us and really thank us. Had one lady actually stop and actually help us bag up. She goes, "Look, I want to do something. I mean, I know my house is flooded, but still, I feel like I got to do something. Can I help you guys?" "Sure." And she jumped right in and helped us bag up water for a while. And this is kind of how Citizens Assisting Citizens is supposed to work. We had some guy walk over to us and say, "Hey, we got a flat tire. Is there any way you can help us?" Well, guess what? We're students of Jack. I had an air compressor, a small one, I had a tire plug kit, and I had an inverter. So we plugged that compressor in, and it ran off the inverter. And Danny took the tire plug kit, went over there, and got a big piece of glass out of their tire. They didn't have a spare, and got that young family back on the road. Who knows what would have happened to them if they hadn't got their tire fixed? They didn't have a spare, and there wasn't a place you could go for 10 miles where you could get anything done. So those kind of small things, there's a lot of small interactions like that all over that area going on. People running out of gas and people stopping and giving them gas. One of the things that we were instructed to do was bring our own gas. So we have 4 6-gallon gas tanks, and then I had probably 8 or 10 small 2 and 1 and 2 gallon size tanks, and I had them all filled up. We took that whisk down there just so A, we wouldn't get stuck without gas, and B, if somebody else was out of gas, we could help them fill it up. So that's day one.
That's all day one.
Yeah, we handed out about 1,200 bottles of water, and then at that point, it wasn't clear that Danny and his nephew were going to want to stay because they came down to do boat rescue. I had a guy coming down from Tennessee with a 15-passenger van full of food and water with his 3 teenage sons. They had taken all the seats out except for the front 2. So we started heading back. I met them at about the same place that we had got that hotel room. Connie had spent the night. They went ahead and headed back to Tennessee. I jumped in, transferred all of our food and water over their van, and then we drove back into Beaumont. And we were, of course, we're affiliated with CAC. And CAC, are you guys familiar with Zello?
Yeah, we've heard them talking about it.
Yeah, I'm on there. I used to be on there every night on my last deployment in Gitmo, but lately I go on there about once a week to and from work.
Okay. For those out there in your audience, Zello is a walkie-talkie app for a smartphone. You can get it for your desktop, Apple or Android or Windows. And it's just basically just like a CB radio on the internet. And it works really well. What you can do is you load the app, and then you can add any particular channel out there that you know of. The Survival Podcast has our own channel. In fact, barring a hurricane and recovery efforts on Zello, the Survival Podcast channel is probably the most active channel on Zello. Zello has come to us several different times and to get feedback on how can we improve Zello, because you guys use it all the time and we know how to use it. And so CAC started their own channel to dispatch volunteers like myself and tell us where to go and what to do, where we were needed. But before it was over with, I discovered probably 8 or 10 different channels that I monitored. One was the Cajun Navy. You guys have heard of the Cajun Navy?
Yeah.
Basically, it's just the good old boys with a boat and a motor, and they go out there and they don't wait for the government to tell them what to do. They go out there and rescue people.
Heck
but
yeah.
If you think about it, how in the heck would you know? There were people trolling neighborhoods. You know, the streets were rivers. So if somebody was trapped and they saw a boat going by, a lot of times they'd come out and they'd holler out the window, or they might be on the roof. Okay, so that's a default rescue. That's not hard to do. There's a lot of people that would call in. They were either on their phones, posting on Facebook. Of course, there were hashtags for, Harvey rescue or that sort of thing. And so a person might post, here's the address. We have 3 adults and 2 children. We've got a senior here that's on dialysis and has not had their dialysis yet. We need rescue immediately. Of course, those would go up to the top of the chain. Those channels like Cajun Navy, the Texas Navy, Houston Harvey Rescue, Beaumont and area rescue. There's a lot of different channels like that sprung up, basically based on geographics. Well, they would coordinate with the boaters. They'd have a dispatch or some moderators running the channel would be looking for those rescue requests, either from Facebook or from text messages or whatever, social media, Instagram. they would turn around and put out a call to the boaters and say, we need a boat at 123 Main Street, and give them the details and what's going on. They also coordinated with the Coast Guard, and each rescue identification would be assigned an ID number by the Coast Guard. So that ID number would be able to track that particular rescue from the rescue to pick up to dispatching them to a shelter, etc. That way, somebody that's trying to contact, did you guys get my parents? Did you pick them up? If they have the ID number, they can call the Coast Guard. Coast Guard will say, yeah, they're at shelter on 27 Main Street. You can contact that shelter and get in contact with your parents. That was going on 6 or 7 different channels at the same time. In fact, if you're interested in hearing the activity has slowed quite a bit, because every day the water goes down, there's less rescues to be made. It's more of a recovery mission now. Now they're sending boats back out to take people back to their house to pick up things they really need, like medications, things of that nature. And but if you want to, you can go on to Zello and you can go in there and go to click on add channel and put in Cajun Navy, and it should pop right up. And there might be a couple different ones, but you can look at the ones that they tell you how many people's in a channel. If it shows 800 people in that channel, you know it's an active channel because 800 people monitoring it right then.
Oh, wow.
So you can go look for Texas Navy, and they're in there. There's a couple of others. The Houston Rescue, Harvey Rescue Channel and it's Houston _ Harvey _ if you get that much in there, it'll find it. I think they're more. They've been wrapped up for a while and doing well. They actually have surplus goods, food and water. But you might want to go in there and listen to those channels just to you can go in there and listen. Just don't get in there and start talking BS. Don't speak up just to say, hey, hi, I'm in Tennessee, I'm listening. Just listen and see what goes on and get an idea. It sounds like a professional, police dispatch or organized, situation going on there. I think you had a question. It sounded like you were going
to. Zello is. You said it's kind of like a walkie-talkie type thing, but you can access it from anywhere as long as you have internet. Is that right?
Exactly. That's what's so cool about it. You don't have to worry about real radios with line of sight or that sort of thing. So as long as you have internet. Okay. And one thing we were lucky with this time was that cell phone service never went down, as far as I could tell. You'd have time, when something big happens, you get on your cell phone, try to call your friend or your wife, and it says all circuits are busy.
Yeah.
Never got that one time. Evidently, from about a decade ago, it could have been as recent as Hurricane Sandy, but I believe what I read somewhere was that the cell phone companies got busy and realized they needed more backup, redundant systems for this kind of situation. When a tower goes down, they need to have somebody keep it online. So they've done a really good job of keeping the cell networks up, which means that all of these Zello channels work flawlessly. So the nature of my mission changed once Danny decided to go back with the boat. I plugged back into CAC and I said, okay, guys, we got food and water. Where do we need to go? There was a local channel called MC Local. That guy, and I'm hoping Jack will interview this guy. If not, you guys need to interview him. You need to interview him anyway. He started a relief effort, a rescue effort, just basically by himself. He was at a Walmart. Guy called. He talked to a guy with a boat, and the guy is like, I want to go rescue people. What do I do? So I'll tell you what, you go put it in the water, and I'll feed you addresses. He started that, and within that, I think within the end of the day, he had 30 or 40 boats wanting to do the same thing. The word got out. So he's basically like his own Cajun Navy, but he was on a low basis. So he was set up in a Walmart parking lot because boats are long. They need to be able to turn around, and they were coming there, and then he was telling them where to go to put in. And it changes hourly and daily. You say, okay, go to 16th Street in Port Authority, or go to this street in Orange, Texas. That's where you can put in. Well, tomorrow it may be higher or lower. Floodwaters were changing, and also they were actually opening the gates of the dams upstream because they were trying to prevent dams from breaking. So water would go down in an area, and you think you're going to get some relief here, and then they would say, no, we got to open the dam up, and it's going to be another 5 or 6 water back in your area. We literally saw a truck with a boat trailer underwater. Evidently, the guy must have put in and went out on his boat, and then when he came back, his truck was already underwater because the water had come up, and he couldn't get back out. We saw a boat just floating on the side of the road, just kind of hanging out under a tree with a nice motor on it. I never did see somebody come get that boat. We were there all day long. Nobody touched it or bought it, but it was the same kind of thing. Maybe he couldn't get to his truck anymore, and he just had to leave his boat there until he could come back after the waters went down. So that was kind of the scenario. So Jason and NC Local set up his organization there at Walmart, and people started coming and going out of Walmart with their boats. Then Walmart decided they were going to open back up, which you really need a Walmart in those areas. That was like the main supply chain for relief goods. So he looked across the street and saw this big mall. It's called Central Mall. And he thought, well, crap, Bed Bath & Beyond ain't going to be opening their door anytime soon. Let's just go over there. So he went right across the street and said, guys, come on over here. I just want to do it now. And then an organization called Vets on Patrol. They're ex-military guys that go to these kind of situations and provide security. They heard about how tight a ship that Jason was running there, and he runs a tight ship. He doesn't have as much traffic on his Zello channel, but it's by design. They don't get on there and chit-chat and ask questions that are not relevant. He keeps it clean. And so they showed up and said, you know what, we heard about what you're doing. We want to provide you with security, because they were in a kind of an area. We did have some looting. We did have gunshots fired after dark. You had to be very careful after dark where you're going. So these guys set up a perimeter around the mall, and they're armed, wearing their military garb. And then when they decided to send out he also started receiving supplies, because that was another problem. People would call up on Zello and say, hey, I'm coming in from Ohio. I've got a big truck and a big old trailer full of food and water. Where do y'all need me? Well, that's hard to figure out and that changes hour by hour. So he started having them come to him, and they set up a big depot dispatch for goods and services, or dry goods and water and non-perishables. And they started coming there. So now he has boat rescue going on, and now he's got supply chain logistics. And then he hooked up with a local church, the First Baptist Church in Groves, Texas, which was across the river. They were well connected. They had it going on. They were receiving goods and supply, food and water. And they were connected with, I don't know how many other churches, but they were kind of like the wholesale hub. They would bring goods in, and then they figured out which churches were hurting and which ones needed it, which ones were setting up, public distribution of goods for people who needed it. So they would bring stuff in there and then send it back out to those other churches. So Jason hooked up the CAC with this Groves First Baptist Church. So we started working with them, because they're the pulse on the ground. We're coming in from the outside. They know where things are and how to and where things need to go. So when we came in that night, when I got in the van with them and we headed towards Beaumont, then there was no way to cross that river. But we were told that if you go north, you could go through Stark and Deweyville and some other places. We got up there and ran into water and had to turn around. We eventually got we got a route into Beaumont, and I discovered another Zello channel that has become invaluable, and it's probably the most impactful channel on the air during this event. It's called Harvey Mapping. And all these guys did was watch Waze. Waze is an app like a Google. It's like Google Maps, but it's for your smartphone, and it's crowdsourcing for information. Tells you about road closures, accidents, and things of that nature. If there's water over the road, it's going to get reported by users of Waze because they're going to come through there and say, "Wow, there's water at mile marker 114 as far as I can see," or "There's water on the road, but you can pass it if you've got a high truck, or it's 12 inches deep." Well, they also tracked a website called drivetexas.org. And if you guys are sitting on your laptop, you might want to pull it up. You'll see how it works. It's basically, again, a Google map, but anywhere there's water on the road, they've highlighted with a big blue line. You can see where it stops and starts and how far that road is underwater. And then you can look at the road map and say, okay, if I divert off of this road, I can go around it and come back on this other highway and get back to where I need to be. These Harvey mapping guys were watching that, and they ran a very good network. They were very professional. So I'd call in to Harvey Mapping, Prepper Survivor, and 10 Leg was the guy that was his handle. That was the guy running Harvey Mapping. He would say, Prepper Survivor, send traffic. It was very professional. And so I'm headed in from here, and I'm looking to go to this destination. Is there a clear route? Stand by. Okay, Prepper Survivor, this is what you need to do. Take the 287 south to the 326 over to the 90, and you can head into Beaumont. Well, he said, you may find water on 326. If you do, let us know. And I did. We found water twice. We found a little puddle of water we went through, and got to a second body of water, and it would just look too much for us to travel. So he gave us an alternate route. Come back down 287 further, hit 421. That'll bring you back up to 326. You should be good to go. Well, we took this alternate route, and on the way, he calls back in, Prepper Survivor. Man, I'm sorry. Hate to tell you this, but we just had word that 326 that you're about to get on, and that area now has water. And it happens that fast. Within 30 minutes, there was a new section of 326 that went underwater. We thought, well, since it's so recent, one of his statements that he got known for was, how adventurous are you feeling? I'm not going to advise you to go that route, but if you want to try it and let us know what's going on, let us know. So how adventurous are you feeling was code word for, I'm not going to advise you to go that route, but if it's passable, let us know. Now we can advise people that they can go that route. So we found this new body of water, and Benny, my partner in the van, put his oldest son Jesse walking in front of the van in his galoshes, his boots, and he was gauging the depth. And as you go into water like that, it gradually gets deeper, but you're hoping that it's going to flatten out and then come back up the other side. We were following along behind him, and it just kept getting deeper. It finally got up to his knees, and when my right foot, I was in the front of the van, when my right foot started getting wet, I said, Benny, I don't know if it looks like it keeps getting deeper, brother, and we're not even up to where your son is, and we're taking on water inside the van here. We either need to go, and we were traveling very slow behind the son, so we either need to go, we need to back up. And he thought, I think we need to back up. So he put it in reverse, and about that time, the engine started sputtering like it was going to die. The exhaust was underwater, and we weren't revving it up high enough. And I said, dude, we got to go forward or go backwards, but we're about to stall and we're dead in the water. He put it in reverse and started backing up. I said, man, give it some gas. He goes, dude, I got it to the floor, and we were barely moving, but we were moving. And eventually we backed on up out of it and got back to dry land. I don't recommend that to anybody. That was probably dangerous. I don't think it was dangerous because we were going to fall into a hole where the water rushed out, because this kind of water just kind of rose. It didn't come. It wasn't like a flash flood style flood. And in Tennessee, when you have flash floods and water's coming under a bridge, and then it, all of a sudden it takes the bridge out. Yeah, that's where they say, turn around, don't drown. This water was kind of pond water in a way. It just kind of rose slowly. Well, it might be rising fast, but it wasn't, because everywhere was flat, lowlands. It wasn't like you were going to have a river of rushing water somewhere.
Right.
So you still, if it's daylight and you had water on the road, most of the time you could see the line markings in the water, even though it wasn't muddy, and it was clear enough that you could see. So if you could see the line markings, you weren't deep enough to probably flood your vehicle out. And there was a couple places on the way out of there that we did. They had I-10 open back up, but there was probably 3 miles where it was underwater, and you just kept on, it was bumper to bumper cars going through it. So it's going to be okay to pass. We had to back out of there, and we finally eventually found a route in and got to our safe house. I take that back. We went to Chester, Texas, up north. We got dispatched from the First Groves Baptist and said, we've got folks up there, about 75 people at church camp, and they need towels and washcloths and shampoo. They need to be able to take showers, and they don't have any dry goods. They've got food and water, we think, but they need other stuff. We went to a Home Depot and bought a Walmart, and bought about $700 worth of goods to bring up to them. And we got up there about 9:30 that night, and they were happy to see it. They were running off no power, running off a generator just to try to keep their freezer for their food from spoiling. And they had a big old generator, and I looked up there and saw about 4 gas cans. I said, how much fuel do you guys have for that? Well, not a lot. I said, well, how long are you planning on running that generator? I said, well, until it gives out. I said, brother, here's what you do. Here's a Stephen Harris technique. Go get you some blankets and some sleeping bags and wrap your freezer in it. And then I said, is that freezer totally full? And they said, no, there's still room in it. I said, well, then get you some 2-liter bottles and put in there with water and let it freeze and take up that space so you don't have to cool as much. And those frozen bottles of water will begin to act as a energy bank, a cold energy bank. So if your power goes off, those solid blocks of ice in there will keep your food cold for a lot longer if you leave the door shut. I said, now what you do is you run your generator for an hour, turn it off for an hour, and then turn it back on. I said, now you're going to extend the amount of fuel, the amount of time you can keep your freezer cool. You can double it by just doing that. It may be that you can go longer than an hour. And they were happy to get that bit of information. So we left our load of diapers and wipes and paper towels and shampoo, and I think we bought 50 towels. We bought this stuff from CAC. CAC has started this operation. We checked the bank account. We had $10,000 in the bank account. Stephen Harris said, we're going to dedicate every penny to Hurricane Harvey. We're going to spend every dime helping people. So if we have to, that's what we're going to do. I think that had an impact on people, because when that word spread that he was going to dedicate 100% of our funds to Hurricane Harvey, people started donating money. We've never we never did dip into the 10,000. We kept getting so many donations over the last 3 or 4 days. Last time I checked, we're up $18,000 in the bank on top of the 10,000. We had an extra 18,000 plus all of the money that we'd already spent. I spent $700 here and $500 there, and they were doling out money to other volunteers like me that was buying supplies at the same time. And that's kind of the way we operate. When you come down, you can bring supplies, but once you bring one load of supplies, you're done. You need to go get some more, so you may have to drive back out of town to the nearest open Walmart and stock up again. And we have a system to distribute funds that we can get the funds out to our people through something called Bluebird, through Walmart, a payment system, and PayPal. And or they'll just, you spend your own money, they'll reimburse you. And I pretty much did both. took too long to get the money into my account. I had enough. They sent me $500 to start with, and it took 2 days. But by the time I drove down the next day I was there, the money was available. But from going forward, I can't wait 2 more days to get money. I just started using my own money to buy the goods. And Benny, my partner, when it's kind of a funny story. Those guys, him and his 3 sons, I belong to this milk co-op. I think I just told you guys that I had to go pick up my milk, right?
Yeah.
I told Maddox that you had to wait to do this interview until after I got my milk. Well, once a week I go and pick up milk that come from the Amish. It's raw milk. And then the lady that was there, I told her that I was planning on going to Texas. And she said, really? She started asking me a bunch of questions about it. She said, oh, I just thought she was interested. And then I got a text from her and said, hey, my husband was going to go to New Jersey with our sons, has decided that they want to go to Texas. Can you get them connected with CAC? I said, absolutely. So I got them hooked up with CAC. They were going to go up there, and every year they do a men-only trip. You know, the dad and the boys go do something on Labor Day. It's their little annual trip that they do. And they were going to go, I don't know, they were going to track down some relatives and track down a vehicle that they were trying to restore and see if they could find it. They decided that they might want to go to Texas. So they canceled their trip to New Jersey and decided to come down to meet us, told his work people that he's going to be taking off, going down there. They all rallied behind him and said, okay, well, we need to send you down there with food and water. So they started buying supplies. His church found out about it. And the guy loaned him the 15-passenger van, and the church filled it up with stuff. So they came down with a big load of stuff. And that was just kind of a casual conversation that I had with somebody that led to those 4 people joining our efforts, and it was a godsend. There's no telling how many people we impacted, just the 4 or 5 of us driving around with a van delivering supplies.
See, one of the things that stands out is you guys don't fly around in jets or drive around in Range Rovers.
Nope.
Some of those other volunteer organizations.
Yeah, man. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing that really jumped out at me earlier from when you started was that, those cash registers, they weren't they were cash only. And that,
right.
That's something important. I think we need to remember that, if something happens, if there's no power or whatever, that, we need to have cash available, because myself and others, we don't typically carry cash. So that's a good thing. What are some, with Irma, the hurricane headed our way, over the next week, what are some things that you saw that the audience might take away and to kind of be more prepared? We talked about water, we talked about fuel, diapers, and so on. So what are some real standout things from your time there?
Well, first of all, if they say get out, go ahead and get out. If you wait till it's too late, you might think, well, I'm going to wait till the water starts rising. Well, by the time that happens, you're going to get caught somewhere, because the water doesn't rise everywhere at the same level. It's rising over here, and there's a pocket of land here, and then over there it's rising again, and you get caught in an island. So you need to go ahead and get out. But based on what you just said about money, if you're listening to this podcast and Irma hadn't hit yet, go to the bank and get as much cash out as you can. Get you $200, $300, $400, $500 or whatever you can afford to pull out to have with you. From what I understand right now, that you cannot find a case of bottled water to purchase in the state of Florida. That it's all gone. It's all gone already.
Wow.
Pat, was that your experience earlier today?
Yeah, I just went to do my regular shopping. I'm pretty prepared here, and the military might make me bug out with them to a shelter that they've already prepared, since I'm still technically active duty. But I went to the grocery store just when everyone was supposed to be at work on a Tuesday around noon, and there wasn't a single bottle of water in the whole store. Yeah.
Now they may get resupplied. They're going to get resupplied because the supply chain is not down.
What I did have though, if you're hurting and you're in an emergency, I think their entire shelf of Gatorade was full up. So I went there and I said,
really,
100% full. So I went, okay, I'll just take 2 or 3 cases of this. I mean, I'm good, I'm prepared, but it's always nice to have a little extra.
That is brilliant. And I was about to say something like that. There's got to be something else you can drink that can give you liquid. It could be, gallon bottles of iced tea.
And you know what else I got was Amazon with the 2-day Prime. It's only Tuesday, so I've already ordered. Man, I can hear the thunder outside. I've already ordered, just a couple cases of water, and I drink coconut water, so I got a couple cases of that just to, not to wash with that, but just to drink. And I ordered a couple little mini bottles of propane, a little mini grill. I mean, just to have, even to give to a neighbor that needs it. That'll help.
Nice. I'm gonna give you a tip on the propane grill. Those one pound propane bottles, they're expensive as heck. I would also get you a 20-pound propane bottle and fill it up, and go to Harbor Freight or somewhere else and get an adapter to a refill kit to refill those 1 pound adapters. You can refill them straight from a 20-pound tank, and those things you can do quite a bit of refilling. So if you're cooking off of a 1 pound thing and you run through that thing, you hook it up with your adapter, fill it back up, and you just keep rotating, and you can extend the life. Or instead of purchasing 10 or 15 bottles of the small stuff. I will also say that if people are on this podcast are in the path of Irma, they need to get familiar with Zello right now. They need to log in, get those channels that are going on Harvey right now, and monitor them. Monitor Harvey mapping. Monitor there's basically 4 types of channels. There's going to be the mapping channel. There's going to be boat rescue dispatch. There's going to be supply channels where people are saying, I've got supplies where I need to go. And there may be channels that deal with logistics or miscellaneous stuff. But those main 3 are what you need to figure out. You need to listen to them to figure out how they operate so that you can plug into them. Because once I figured out Harvey mapping was available, I wasn't guessing about where I needed to go. I at least had a plan of action. And then if I got stuck, I could go back to these guys, and they're real time tracking that stuff. And they've got people on the ground like me giving them feedback, updates to let them know how to get around. So if you can't get out or you get caught, you need to know the protocol of how to use Zello with these different channels, because they will have the same thing with Irma. They're going to have, the Key West Irma rescue channel, and they're going to have the Key West mapping, Key West Irma mapping channel, etc. Wherever you are, there are going to be some channels that pop up. And the great thing about Zello is our mods don't have to be there. They could be in Kansas somewhere. They can look at a map and they can listen to the chatter on the channel and keep track of where people are going and be able to dispatch people and give directions and routing. That's one thing I do. Get your Zello out and get on it and figure it out.
And that's Zello.
Yep.
Instead of most people are familiar with Zillow, the real estate app, but it's the one we're talking about is Zello, and we'll have that in the show notes. Yeah.
The other app, show notes. The other app you want to get is Glimpse, Glympse. Glimpse, in fact, CAC uses it nonstop. So while I'm on the road working with CAC, I can send my Glimpse, which basically gives you the ability to watch me on a map, just like you're watching my navigation. And with Glimpse, you can set up tags, and we set up a tag for CAC, and a tag is just an exclamation point with a name that you make up, and we named it exclamation point CAC. That will, if I share my location with that tag, it puts me on the map, a master map that our dispatch can be looking at and can see everybody that belongs to CAC at the same time on the same map without having to change maps and look at individual shared Glimpse locations. It's really fantastic. Yeah. In fact, Harvey Mapping is kind of closing down. They're winding down their operation. They don't have near as many requests. So they've gone in kind of debrief, brainstorm mode on how they can make things better. And that was one of the things they brought up was yeah, glimpse would be good, but the guy running the network was like, I didn't have time to even look at it. If he had one page open on his laptop with glimpse, and he had a tag of, I'm exclamation point map, anybody, he could have been giving that out. Guys, if you want to help me out, go to glimpse and share your location to exclamation point map, and then he had been able to see where all these people were exactly. Part of the problem with him mapping was that people would tell them they weren't sure where they were sometimes. They weren't sure what mile marker they were or how far down this water was on the road. And when I say I see water, he's, where is it? I said, well, it's about a mile past that intersection back there where you turn to go to Sulphur or Sour Springs, Louisiana. Well, that's okay. But if he had glimpse, he could see exactly where I'm at. So I think what's the next generation rescue effort, I think these guys are going to wind up incorporating glimpse in their Zello channels as a means to help get word faster and find out exactly where people are. Because heck, if I can see you on the map, you don't have to tell me where you're at. I can see where you're at.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But you can use glimpse with your own family. If you're going to leave out on you guys are going to drive all your cars away from the house because you think that your house might get flooded. You at least want to save your cars. You got 3 cars, 3 different people driving. You guys can set up your own tag, set up your own glimpse master map, and then everybody share the glimpse with each other. That way, mom and dad and teenage son driving the truck, they can see that they're all tracking together. If all of a sudden the truck stops on the side of the road and you can't get a hold of him, maybe he had a flat tire and he got out of the truck and he's standing on the side of the road and you guys keep driving, putting miles between you, he's not thinking clearly enough right off the bat to get on the phone and call you, or maybe he can't get you on the phone. You can at least see it. Wait a minute, he stopped. Let's backtrack, go back there and see what's going on. He was in an accident or he had a flat tire or something else going on. Glimpse is invaluable for something like that. Or
that's a great source. Yeah.
You can also, if you're going to leave Irma and go to your safe house, maybe it's a relative in another state or a hotel or whatever, whoever's there, you can get your other relatives to monitor glimpse, or your friends to monitor your glimpse so that they can kind of keep tabs on you and they can call out to Calvary if you get stuck or get stopped or get in trouble.
Nice.
Are you going to do anything from your experience? Are you going to do anything differently in your own preps after all that?
Yeah, because I took a lot of stuff that we didn't use. It took up a lot of room. Thank goodness that once we got to a safe house, I could offload a lot of that stuff and cook it up when we got ready to come back to Tennessee. But I brought a canopy tent, one of those 10 by 10s. Those things are 4 foot long, 8 inches square, take up room. Because our original game plan before we got punched in the nose was that, we might go set up at a church parking lot and put up a pop-up tent and put up a table and put the stuff on it and have tie an inverter to the vehicle and put a charging station in and put lights on it and, hey, everybody come over here and get your food and water. That's not going to happen in a hurricane situation or a flood situation. Just not. And we didn't need it. And if you're bringing food to a shelter, well, then the shelter already has lights and probably has, they usually bring you to a shelter that is way far away from where the action is. So they bring you north, and usually they've got power and they've got food and water sometimes. And if they don't, we're going to bring them food and water. But at least they've got, a place to stay and they could probably charge their cell phones, etc. They don't need a pop-up tent. I did bring a small portable air compressor and a tire plug kit. I would say that would be a must anyway, just for yourself. Because if you go, once there's flooding, you don't know what you're running over. You don't know what kind of debris there could be in the road and cause you to lose your tire. When you're bringing any kind of trailer, you better make sure you have spares, and probably better to have 2 than 1. We had a blowout on our boat trailer. Those little boat trailer wheels are not designed to go 70 miles an hour down the interstate. And when you're, in a hurry to go help people, you might throw caution to the wind like that way. And you certainly, if you put stuff in the boat, you're putting extra weight on it. So we had two we had two spares on wheels just for that purpose. And sure enough, we had a blowout. It didn't really. It took us 5 minutes to stop, jack up the boat trailer, put the new wheel on, and go. I would also say that I didn't need. I had that table. I had some other stuff, but what we did bring, I would say, always bring some type of inverter. You may not use it for a charging station, but in our case, we used it to fire up an air compressor with 110. Those little air compressors that come with the cigarette lighter adapter, generally they're not powerful enough to do jack crap. They tend to get overheated, and I just don't trust them. Yeah. There's one that Jack recommends, but it's $100. But crap, you can get the kind I have, a pancake compressor style, for right around $150. And if you have an inverter, you've got a 100 or 150 psi, and you probably got a couple gallons of air in it to store it that you can use. So I would definitely do that. I would make sure that you have a splitter for your cigarette adapters, so that you have plenty of plugs that you can be charging your cell phone and running your. Sometimes I had to run my laptop in the van. And we had, multiple cell phones going on in there, and you need to be able to make sure everything's powered up. Be able to charge I have a Bluetooth headset, and you're going to run that thing down eventually. And while you're charging your, I guarantee if you have a phone and you've got Zello on it, you've got Glimpse running, you've got Google Maps navigation going, you are sucking some battery out of that. So you're going to have to leave your phone plugged in almost the whole time, or you're not going to be able to do all those things. So while you got your phone plugged in, your headset might go down. You're going to have to replug your headset in and let it charge. And you got your passengers that have their cell phones going. So having a splitter would be, or a couple of them where you could got plenty of receptacles to charge any of your electronic devices is necessary. You kind of took me off guard with that question, because I'm trying to think what, we had money, we had food, we had gas, we brought gas. You always want to bring gas with you. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we did to try to, we were in a van. So if you're in a truck, it's no big deal, but if you're in a van, you might wind up getting some gas fumes. We took a tarp, laid it on the back at the very end of the van, and set the gas cans there, folded the tarp back over it, put another tarp on top of it, and then took a moving blanket. You can get these cheap moving blankets from Harbor Freight for $7, $8, $10, or real thick moving blankets. Threw that over it, and then we opened up the very back windows, kind of pop open, crack open. Never had a problem with gas fumes. But we had plenty of gas on board. We probably had 30 to 40 gallons that we could access. And we had a guy one time, one of the guys that we pulled into this one area that was underwater on 326, and we decided we stopped for a while, and this car comes flying up. This couple was in it, and we said, "No, you ain't going there, brother. There's water up there, and I know your car ain't gonna make it. We're gonna backtrack and go on down. You can follow us if you want to." He's trying to get to Beaumont. So he followed us from the first body of water from 326 to the second body of water, and we got out in that water, thought we was going to cross it, and then backed up. And of course, they were just sitting there waiting on us. And we said, "Well, we're going to backtrack again." They gave us another route, but they were there were backups. There was a 4-hour traffic jam on Highway 90 coming into Beaumont. Not from anything other than just there was the only place you can get in, and there was water over the road there, and you were going to have to drive in water that was maybe a foot deep for 3 or 4 or 5 miles. It was just slow going. But we thought, well, that's the only way in. That's the way we got to do it. So this guy was like, "Well, I'm getting low on gas, man. I've only got a quarter of a tank." And I said, "Well, pull up to this hotel up here and we'll fill you up. We got gas." We got up there. And damn, if his gas tank didn't have a Citizens Assisting Citizen proof gas tank, you can't help a citizen that has this particular. I think it was a Ford. I don't know. It was a new model Ford. And when you open the gas cap and you look down in there, it's got a metal plug, a gate on that where when we stuck our little plastic gas can in there and started putting it in, it's wound up pouring it straight on the ground. Like, what in the crap? Has he got a leak in his gas tank? We got to look in, and there's a tube coming out. I said, that's an overflow tube, guys. What's happening is that gas is backing up and not going through that gate and going through the overflow tube. So we got a screwdriver and was trying to poke it in there, and it wouldn't budge. And what we figured out, there's two little ears that stick out around the cylinder. And that thing is designed for exactly the size of a gas nozzle to go down in there. It depresses those two ears and allows that gate to open.
That's ridiculous.
The circumference of the gas nozzle on a plastic gas can is slightly smaller. It will not depress those things. We tried to take two knives and depress it. We couldn't do it though. So we said, well, dude, just keep following us. If you run out of gas, we'll figure something out. And we finally got an alternate route and got over to 90 and pulled into a big, nice gas station. All the lights are on. A lot of people parked at the pumps. Wow, maybe they've got gas here. No, they were out of gas. What I found was if you're driving around and you see people at a gas station and gas has been gone for a while and you think, oh, wow, they got gas, look close and see if you see people actually putting nozzles into their gas, into the cars. Because if not, you're just wasting your time stopping because they're not putting gas in. They're out of gas. And if you look closely, you'll probably see the plastic Kroger bags around the gas nozzles to indicate that they're out. They're just parking. They're just parking there, going in to get, junk food or water or something else.
Okay.
So we pulled into this nice big gas station. It was at night. It was getting late. It's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. And we pull up there and we think, we try to get, again, we think, well, how can we get this guy gas? So we'll pull over in the pump. Let's see if putting a nozzle in there actually does open this thing up. And sure enough, it did. So our theory was true. I said, you got do you have a clothes hanger? The lady happened to have a metal clothes hanger in her trunk. And what I did is I just forced that coat hanger alongside that nozzle. And when he stuck that gas nozzle in, it opened up the gate, and I left the coat hanger in there, and it kept it open enough that we could get a couple of gallons of gas into his car, and he got on to his destination.
All right.
And just little things like that, you have to think, you got to solve problems. It's not always, and I thought, man, they're making things hard for us to deal with. I heard another fellow say he had a car in a garage that had got flooded, but up to the engine or whatever. They didn't want to start it because that might actually ruin it. So they were going to tow it to a mechanic. But what they're saying now is that if your car is in park, the computer controls the emergency brake in park. You can't disengage it unless your car has power. And this particular car had no power. And they said the only way for the wheels to roll is for this computer to engage or disengage the lock. And because this car was in a garage, they couldn't pull up and stick it on top of a dolly. So they're going to drag it out in gear. I mean, that's just stupid. So that's the kind of things we're dealing with as technology advances, it actually can put us in a box where things don't work the way they used to work.
Man.
Jake, how can people get involved who want to be involved with CAC?
Right now, Stephen Harris is waiting for you to email him so that he can give you all the details on what it would take to volunteer. You're still volunteers going down.
Okay.
They've kind of changed our direction towards recovery. Now there's people that have, their house is full of water, but they've got drywall in there that's water's come up, 30 or 40 inches inside their house, and all that drywall is wet. If they don't cut that drywall out and cut the carpet out and get that stuff out along with the ruined furniture and put it on the street, they're going to get mold in that house they've only got about 3 or 4 or 5 days before mold starts growing, and then lose their whole house to mold. So we are restructuring our recovery efforts, and now that we're sending out people with with crowbars and nail pullers and hammers and sledgehammers and things that can help clean that stuff up, power tools to cut through things. We're looking for people who are willing to go do that, and it's a tough job. But if you are up for it and that's something you want to do, then you just need to email Stephen and go to
the CACteam.com.
Yeah, but that's not where you're going to get his email address. His email address is, let me just open up I got it right here.
Is it like Stephen Harris at 1234 at something.com?
It's something like that, but it's at Knowledge Publications. Hold on, I'll give it to you here. It's support at knowledgepublications.com. So support at knowledgepublications with an S on the end of it .com, and say, I would like to volunteer for the recovery efforts of Harvey. Or you could say, I would like to volunteer for the upcoming Irma, because I'm sure there's probably going to be a deployment there. They're going to want you to do a background check, so you may have to pay for that background check as part of your volunteering, which is probably, I think, around $10 to have a background check. He will get you in line on how you can do it. How to get funds for your fuel, directions for a safe house, the tools you need, and they're actually purchasing tools. Though if you don't have the actual tools you need to do the demo work, they're going to get you hooked up to go buy a Harbor Freight first. That's where we want to go first, because they're least expensive, and buy some of the tools you'll need to do demo work. If they don't have it, then you would go to the big box stores like Lowe's or Home Depot.
Awesome.
So that's something you can do.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't really understand how people function without Zello. I don't know how many people were on Zello. I know that there were hundreds and sometimes over 1,000 people on a channel, and there were multiple channels. But I would feel sorry for somebody that's just driving around, Port Authority or Beaumont or Orange, Texas, trying to get somewhere else, and they didn't have Zello. I don't know what they were using. Maybe they were using Waze. But Waze was also found to have some inaccuracies. You had to have a backup. You familiar with Waze, W-A-Z-E?
Yeah, I use that one.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Pretty good, but they were actually finding, because things were changing so fast, sometimes they didn't get updated by other folks. So unless you had that, you were kind of like flying in the dark.
A lot of great resources.
I'd also say check the legality of carry. If you can carry and you live there and your state says you can carry and you have a carry permit, you probably should be carrying. If you're coming in from another state, you need to check for reciprocal license to make sure that it's legal for you coming in to carry. And if it's legal for you to carry, you should probably carry.
Yeah, I agree.
There were some sketchy situations, and these guys that were veterans for on patrol, working with that one particular distribution point, MC Local, sometimes they would send out a convoy. They never sent anybody out alone. They always sent escort. And if they were taking goods and meals, water and food to maybe a subdivision or something that they knew needed it, they didn't go alone, and they always went packing. In fact, they would, when they get ready to go into the area that their destination was, they would get a couple of them would get in the back of the truck. They look like military rolling in. Mm-hmm. And so forced to kind of say, okay, we ain't taking no crap off you guys if you're around here, and we're making a delivery. But many times when it got dark, they would have to go in after dark and extract people that were in really sketchy areas where they were hearing gunfire or reports of looting. And those guys got the job done.
That's awesome. All right, well, I guess I'll end the show with a closing thought. If you turn off the TV and talk to real people, you'll see that the world is not that hateful. Disasters are the best places to look for human beings helping each other for no other reason except to help.
Can I interject one more? I got to tell one more story, man, because what you just said, citizen goes both ways. We had 3 guys coming out of Tennessee with a 16-foot trailer that had 8.5 pallets of water and a pallet and a half of other stuff, and they lost their trailer down in somewhere down near Hattiesburg. We'd already passed them, or we would stop and helped them. So they had this 18,000 pounds of goods on a trailer, pulled by a truck. They just overloaded the thing. So we thought they were just going to be stuck. Their trailer's not going to make it, and they're not going to be able to make it. Some guy they pulled in a truck stop at Love's, and some guy came up to them, and they started talking. This guy says, "I'm a hot shot driver. I'll let you take my hot shot trailer down to Louisiana and back, and I'll watch your trailer while you're gone." And the guy gave him his hot shot trailer. They got their load down there and delivered.
Oh, geez.
Came back up. He took them to have their trailer, the wheels repaired, tires repaired, and then his filter in his truck went down, his gas filter, and he took them and got that. That's a citizens assisting citizen. There's people everywhere that want to help, and they're not part of our organization. We don't have a monopoly on helping people. And
Right.
Thank God that they were out there willing to help us.
That's amazing.
Plenty of resources today. Thank you so much.
Jake, always a pleasure to have you on, man.
Absolutely. This was great.
So that's the end of special episode 2. Thanks so much, Jake Robinson, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you found value in today's show, go ahead and share it with a friend, and get involved in the comment section for today's show. But until next time, be alert, stay safe, and seek out liberty in everything you do.